The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Monday, the 4th day of November, 2024. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. I'm Jamel Hartman. She's Perry Ferbert, and Maya Palacio will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in the news break brought to you by People's. Perry, how was your weekend?
It was actually a good weekend. Happy November. Happy New Week.
Yeah.
Happy Monday.
I must ask, because I want to get all in your business. Did you do anything fun?
I went to church. That's fun, but nothing out of the ordinary. And church was good.
Yeah.
But,
Do you sing in church?
like stand up and sing and dance and all that?
No, but I mean, like, you ain't part of the choir or nothing?
Oh, no, I'm not part of the choir, but I'm like enjoying the service. Is that what you mean? Yes, absolutely. Choir.
I asked that because if there's one place where you can try to blend in and make yourself sound like you can sing, it's the church, boy.
You can hear when someone is off.
Not me. I get off. Well, no, you know what? Maybe nobody just wanted to hurt my feelings.
I can tell. I'm like, somebody on that left side is doing a little something.
Y'all want to know is you can pick it out.
Oh, I have a sonic gift.
Okay.
Sonically inclined. I can tell like somebody over there in the channel, somebody ain't doing what they need to do. You can tell. You can.
Leave it in the shower, Jamel. Leave it in the shower. Don't take it to
That's
the
wise. That's wisdom.
All right. Well, David Michael Wilson says, happy Monday, one and all. Make it a meaningful one by doing your part in helping someone else. Indeed, David, indeed. Colita Davis says, grand rising, TDH family, grand rising. Yes, indeed. And greetings, everyone. And thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome Taj Donville-Outerbridge on. We're discussing the importance of youth civic engagement, young people, being politically engaged. I want to say, Bermuda Youth Connect and the many young people who have tried to, get young people engaged. I mean, Maya, through the way she reports the news, it's been phenomenal. So looking forward to this conversation.
Yes.
If you haven't already, if you've tuned into this show and you have not already, please go do us a favor and fill out our survey. Fill out the Daily Hour survey if you have not done it already. We'd really, we're going to have it up for another week or two. But if you haven't, please fill out the survey. Just put it in the comments. So if you're on YouTube or Facebook, just click that link in the comments, or our website, click that link in the comments and fill out the survey for us. Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. All right, let's jump into today's discussion, folks. Question, look, I'll just go to our friends at the Royal Gazette. And the headline was government shifts away from Bermudiana hotel plan. Maya reported last week that Lieutenant Colonel David Birch announced that the government had pulled out of a deal that would have resulted in a boutique hotel run by the Hilton Group, and it was scheduled to open by next summer. The report stated that instead of the 94 units of the Bermudiana Beach Resort, will be put on the rental market once construction is complete at the end of this year. A lot of people have opinions on this, but let me read a bit further because your opinions may get stronger. Colonel Birch acknowledged that the complex, which has cost more than $100 million to build, had been hit by an incredible set of circumstances in recent years, including the COVID pandemic and rise in inflation, which meant a 50% increase on the cost of essential building supplies such as concrete and steel. He said, despite those challenges, the project continued, but with pre-sales still not materializing and cost increasing, the government decided to investigate the business model of the property. So I think they did something with, was it EY? Yeah. He said that EY came up with 4 proposals for the property, which was to stick with the existing model, sell units individually as condominiums, run the property as a standard boutique hotel, or convert units into residential apartments. And he confirmed that Cabinet, which is basically the premier and all the ministers, had decided on the 4th option last week, which was to convert it into residential rental apartments. Mm-hmm. Question of the morning. What are your thoughts on the government putting Bermudiana Beach on the rental market? But before you give us your full thoughts, just a yes or no. Do you agree with the government pulling out of a deal with the Hilton Group for Bermudiana Beach Resort? Because it's going to cost. I forgot to mention that part, that he was asked, is there going to be a cost? And I believe he said, Perry, I don't know if you saw, but I believe he said up to $500,000 or less than $500,000. It's going to cost less than $500,000. But that's the short answer. Do you agree with the government pulling out of a deal with the Hilton Group for Bermudiana Beach Resort? Yes or no? Yes or no? Do you
yes. Well, personally, I think that creating more housing for Bermuda is a great idea. So pulling out, that's great, you know. Mm-hmm. But the way in which it is being proposed that it be implemented, I'm on the fence about that. Because it was reported that they want to target the international market, which I'm sure is in response to this global tax that's going to be implemented soon. So Bermuda will become even more desirable. You know, it's going to become another place for people to set up shop. And that's fine. That's great for economy. That can help us get out of debt. All of the things that we need, right? However, we have people that live here. Mm-hmm. So those people currently cannot find places to live. Mm-hmm. And those people currently cannot afford to pay the rents that are out there. Now, the studios at these proposed new residential places, they start at $3,000. I have a bit of a problem with that because even if you are placing this price point for international invitation, we don't have a lifestyle in Bermuda that supports those kinds of people. Because the kind of people that are going to pay $3,000 for a studio, they need restaurants that stay open past 10 p.m. You know, they need grocery stores that stay open past 5 o'clock. So I feel like the model all around has holes in it because you're promoting and marketing to a certain group of people, and you don't even really know if they want to be here. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it might be viable for the global taxation that will be rolled out, which has been reported in the news. So I see it from that standpoint, and I do understand. However, I think all the way around, it's not that viable, especially when you have individuals here who, number one, need homes, and number two, cannot afford the rents that currently exist. Mm-hmm. So then what happens? We revisit this later and then say, oh, well, we're going to open it up to the public. And then you're going to be mixing public with international. Like, I think a little bit more thought needs to go into it, truthfully.
I think your concerns are consistent and valid based on what's been said. I think I think a lot of people picked up on the term. They didn't use the word affordable this time.
Because it's not.
Yep. And I think they finally understand that it's this is a family show. I can't use that word. They messed up. I think they understand. They know that this was a big mess up. But I want to go to Instagram.
What, the property in general was a mess up, or?
Well, from jump when they initially built it, they said affordable housing, right? The idea, you know, a friend of mine said regarding affordable housing, like this government doesn't seem to know the difference between affordable and subsidized. I want to go to Instagram because the question was asked on our Instagram. Do you agree with the change? 43% said yes, they agree with the change to rental homes, and 57% said no, keep it as boutique hotel. But what are your thoughts, live audience? What do you agree with the government pulling out of the deal? Hadley Swan says yes. She agrees. Okay, with them pulling out. Michelle White says yes, but the decision was made so late into the new construction process. Okay, but what are your thoughts as well? What are your thoughts on what's going on? What are your thoughts on it? Let's go. And Charles H. Jeffers II says, I don't think the government should be making any decisions on the property. Find a fully financed buyer for the property and let them decide what they want to do. Okay, so basically the government should not be in this business is what he's saying. Malachi Troy says, to me, this is another quick fix. We need the opportunity to buy homes. This will allow us to feel more comfortable and secure in our country. Yes, we need houses. That's very valid. But this is a quick fix. Well, these are not for us, right?
They're not for us. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. There's not even being marketed or promoted for us to even occupy. So I valid point, but the point that he's making doesn't even apply to this because this isn't even for us, which the natural reaction to that would be offense. I mean, because people need homes. Like people currently cannot find homes that they can afford to pay rent in. Like we have a crisis with that, you know? So.
And I think with the amount of money that this government has spent on this, I mean, I keep telling people that this is their money. This is your money. You own this, right? And it's weird because you cannot afford to live in something that you own. That doesn't sound right, right? It doesn't seem. It's like you owning a business that you can't afford to support.
That's a lot of people. So,
but that's not how it should be. Like you should, you know, it's not. It's weird. Sean DeShields, and we got a lot of comments on Instagram, the question as well. So I'll go to there after Sean DeShields' comment. But he said, what a joke, as this will result in less available hotel rooms and an increase in unaffordable units on the market. I wanted to mark this date. What's the date? November 4th. Because remember, when they had the affordable housing units, only 2 units were purchased, if I'm not mistaken, right? I'm really interested if anyone's going to keep score as to how many of these units are going to be rented in a timely manner. And for those
internationally,
what's that?
Internationally rented?
Yeah.
Or just rented in general? Okay.
Period. Like, I mean, you're banking on international, but I think you kind of said what I would have said earlier. Like, I mean, is Bermuda really still a viable destination for
its target audience?
Right.
Yeah.
But let me go to Instagram real quickly. So here are some of the responses regarding the thoughts on the government putting the resort on the rental market. So we have someone said, good. However, we need more single unit rentals, 1 bedrooms. Okay. Another person said the government needs to get out of this business. Okay. Another person says the price is not affordable and it just seems reckless how they're handling our money. Yep. Another person said government should not be in the rental market.
So we're hearing that a lot.
Yep. Someone said not at those prices. Okay. Right. Another person said, don't know why they didn't rent them out from the very beginning. And last one said, wasted too much money from the public purse. Now looking to us to bring them out, like education.
Wow. Lots of common themes there, lots of shared opinion there. And I think collectively, I mean, we've talked about this a few times on the shows I've been on where there's not enough of an ear to the public, right? But it's still at the public's expense, right? It's still taxpayer dollars, but then you're not listening to the people who are paying.
Right.
And that's a weak link, you know, that we don't move forward that way because then we're going to keep having friction. And I do think that there can be harmony, you know, but once again, and I feel like having your personal opinions is one thing, but also thinking about how you speak against those in power is another thing. And that's just from a spiritual standpoint. God tells you not to do that. That's my belief. Not pushing that on anyone else. However, some things are just silly, you know, and there's no way around it. So this is one of those things where I do understand the thought behind it, and as business that makes sense, right? Like if you look, they're looking for the quickest way to get their money back, so that's target the people who have the money. However, do you know if those people actually want to come here? And is there a way that you can target Bermudians within a certain income bracket who can then rent these spaces and do the same thing? Have we even looked into that option? And if you have, make that public, so then people can see that you have at least done the work to see if there are any options on island before out. Is what we do with job searches. Companies have to advertise locally first, whether they have someone in mind or not, just to show the public we advertise for this.
But I think what you're doing is you're thinking logically with the conscience beyond politics. I think what we have to understand is that these are politicians making decisions that's in the best interest of their politics, not necessarily what's in the best interest of Bermudians.
Which is backwards.
That's not to say they don't care about Bermuda and Bermudians, but they just want to ensure that they benefit first, like first them, then community, right?
But that's backwards.
No, it is backward, but I think, but that's what we keep voting for. That's what we keep voting for, right? We keep voting for backwardness. We keep voting for out of fear, and we keep voting to keep things in place, no matter how unhappy we are. But politicians, for the most part, their focus is what can we do to get reelected, and it's unfortunate because they play a very, very silly game that works. They go knocking on doors and convince you and tell you how you've benefited. Right.
It works with the individuals who do vote. Sorry to cut you off, but there are a lot of individuals who decided to forfeit their vote because of the silliness. So from the people that are targeted with the advances, that's who keeps voting. But if everyone went out and exercised their right to vote for real, I think we would have a different level of accountability. I apologize to cut you off.
Well, no, I don't disagree with you. I absolutely agree. But I think it's bigger than the vote, though. And I mean, we have the circus
election
tomorrow. I think accountability comes with your vote, and I think so often we think about the vote and then we forget to hold them accountable. As I said on the show before, and I'm very careful with my words because I'm not inciting anything, but folks, these politicians come on your doorstep begging for your vote every couple of years. Some of them come in between. Go knocking on their doors with your concerns. Tell them, look, you just wasted. Like, I'm here struggling. Groceries are rising, this, that, and the other, but yet you took money because it's not yours and wasted it on this, wasted it on that. This is not slight. People are struggling.
Truly, people are. And there are, I know a handful of people that are looking for homes right now, and there aren't even any options. But, you know, something came up in the comments, I think on the World Gazette, and it was such a good point, that the public, right? The public is regulated to rent control for one bedrooms. It can't go over a certain price, but then these studios will be $3,000. So it's almost like robbing from the public, where they can't charge a certain amount for their one bedrooms in the homes that they've worked hard to pay off and pay for. So we're rent controlling the public's one bedrooms.
Yeah.
But our ones will be $3,000. You know.
Right.
And that was a point on that you want to go see it's on the road with that. And I was like, that is a very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, Harry. It's interesting. Let's go to the audience. Sean DeShield says, so much for hospitality job creation. I'm sure the Hilton Group will not be very enthusiastic about doing business in Bermuda anytime soon. You know what, Sean? Remember Marriott. I believe it was Marriott. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. When they left after Castle Harbor, I'm pretty sure they said they would never do business again in Bermuda. And it took a long time till we got St. Regis, right? Bermuda's not in a position where we can afford to mess up these important relationships. Suzanne Ingham says, well stated, Perry. Of course, well stated. She's intelligent. Mark Arthur C. Phillips says, for the price of these apartments, they need to have many amenities that would give the tenants value for money. Yep. Charles H. Jefferson II says, I heard the minister say last night that these would be available for subsidized housing. It's wild that we would be subsidizing the rent for a place that we've invested $100 million plus in.
And that's a shared sentiment amongst the public. It is, especially those who are in need of housing right now. There are people looking, and people who can afford to pay and people who can't, but regardless, there's still a crisis happening.
Yeah.
We need some of these homes for the public. We just do.
Yeah, I agree. Shamari Sky says, these properties should be offered as a compromise for the South P development instead of South P on protected land. Offer these for purchase as an alternative. Okay, I like the way he thinks. Sean DeShield says, would be very interesting to hear what government's rhetoric will be when these unaffordable units remain unsold again. Well, Sean, that's why I said to Perry just now. That's why I said to the audience, it's November 4th today. I would love us to revisit this conversation and keep score. This is what I promise you, the Daily Hour team, we're going to start doing a job of that. We're going to start keeping score of things. Because remember, I've said some things to you before, and like clockwork, it happened. I told you what the premier was going to do in that lead up to the election of Curtis Dickens. We weren't even a week. And he did it. Announced that the hotel deal was, so come on now. We know what it is. The problem is, many in our community have short memories. Folks, we've got to bring Maya Palacio in for Daily Hour News Break because we have a guest coming up, Taj Donville-Outerbridge. We're going to be talking about youth civic engagement. I would love to know what younger voters feel about this. I mean, is it a concern of theirs? Do they care? For the most part, well, those interested in politics. I know some who are not interested in politics probably just don't even know what's happening. And that's not just young people. There are people my age who got friends, we're in groups. They have no interest. They literally, their lives are work and bar.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people, and hey, folks, you better wake up. I tell you, better wake up. All right, let's bring Maya Palacio in for Daily Hour News Break. So we've got everyone needs to get out to vote. That's what we've got from Mia Chambray on Instagram. All right, let's bring Maya Palacio in for the Daily Hour News Break. And don't forget, we've got Taj Donville-Outerbridge coming up for a conversation about youth civic engagement.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
It's been a pretty busy morning, but good.
Well, that's. I mean, busy is good on a Monday. I think. You reported on this last week.
Actually, it was Teo that actually reported on it last week.
Look, you guys are looking like. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give Teo that much credit.
There is something I wanted to touch on there about it, because in the recent report, because he did, the minister did retaliate back or speak back after the OBA actually put out their statement about it and how they felt about it, disagreeing with it or not feeling like it was the best decision for the country as a whole. But the minister also did put in a statement that the cost to break the agreement, he did say it was below $500,000, but now he's saying it's even significantly lower than that. But he doesn't want to give out the full figure, not until they can release it with the Hilton Group.
Interesting. Okay. Follow that one closely, audience.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot going on. But again, he did say there was two primary options, either to keep it as boutique or move it to the rental markets. And they all decided that rental markets was the right way to go. And I know a lot of people are definitely concerned about these prices. But again, they do believe it's going to be some sort of trickle down effect, even though that's at this present moment a belief. And, the idea of someone who told them this might be profitable in that way, but they don't.
David Byrd and the PLP don't believe in trickle down. They believe in ripple. That's their own words. Anyway, you've got news to do. Sorry.
I was about to say, Jamal, it's Monday.
Yeah.
We can definitely keep continuing on this conversation. But yes, we do have news this morning. Good morning, everyone. This is your Daily Hour News Break brought to you by the great people at People's Pharmacy. So starting out your news break this morning, some tragic news that you may have heard over the weekend. But a parent's worst nightmare has come to reality as a 19-year-old male has died after a tragic collision. This happened around 8:10 a.m. on Friday, November the 1st. Police officers were dispatched to a two-vehicle road traffic collision involving a truck and a motorcycle near the junction of Harrington Song Road and Lolly's Wow Road in Smiths Parish. Upon arrival, they were informed that a motorcycle rider who was 19 years old, male, had been transported to the hospital by ambulance. And officers attended the hospital where they were informed that the male was undergoing surgery for very serious injuries and unfortunately succumbed to those injuries. Now, again, they are investigating this and they're asking anyone with information to please contact the officer who is actually in control of this, which is Constable Rollins at 717-2123. Or again, you could call 295-0011 or speak with the officer whom you know. They also did mention that this is now the 6th road fatality that we've had this year.
Yeah, I just want to say, coming into a Monday, between Friday and Monday, 2 weekends in a row, we've lost a teenager. And I feel for the families, and I want to send nothing but love to the families. I think, once I've said this before, once these folks are gone, they're no longer feeling the pain, but the pain that's left behind, I really do send so much love and comfort to the families, the grieving families, and wish I could do more, but honestly, it's beyond me. So very sorry for them.
Indeed, it's a tragedy in all the ways. This is something that it just never leaves you. Well, meanwhile, in other news and the update on some things that we've been curious about when it comes to Team Haven, they have actually secured a 6-month postponement of the eviction. Now, this is coming from the Royal Gazette. As we follow the story, Team Haven was fighting an eviction from the trustees. It's brought to attention that the charity has been allowed to remain temporarily at the headquarters in Pembroke. Now, Team Haven Team Services has also been given an assurance of support by the government, according to Zena Darrow, who is a board director of the charity. Ms. Darrow said representatives of the charity had appeared before Magistrate Maria Sofinos in the family court, and she also agreed to grant a single 6-month postponement of the eviction, which kind of means that within this time they have to have another dialogue between the two parties as well. But Ms. Darrow also said that additionally the extra allotted time might allow them to help people with their services that they couldn't have helped prior to.
Well, I'm happy for them that they got the extension. I am.
Yeah,
it's definitely a good thing on that behalf for the charity. All right. So in other news, Clinton Smith, 48, has pleaded guilty to causing the death of 70-year-old Keith Gordon. And this is coming from the Gazette that Smith denied murdering Mr. Gordon, whose lifeless body was found inside a home in Victoria Street on June 11, 2022. Now, Mr. Gordon was the son of late labor and civil rights leader E.F. Gordon, a national hero, and brother of former Queen Pamela Gordon and former of the studio Patricia Gordon. So, Supreme Judge John Wolf adjourned the case to November 12th and remanded him into custody until then.
All right, having some audio challenges with you at the end there, Maya.
Apologies there. Can you hear me now?
yeah. Just the last bit again.
The last statement there was that Hussein Judge Juan Wolf adjourned the case till November the 12th and remanded Smith into custody until that time.
Okay.
Another court case that I'm sure many people on the island are very interested to know, appearing in the court was also former Progressive Labour Party Senator Curtis Richardson, who denied causing the death of award-winning footballer Marco Warren by driving without due care and attention. Now, you'll recall the tragic death of Mr. Warren, 29, who's a 3-time recipient of Bermuda Football Association Most Valuable Player and awarded, and was also a new father. While he was found unconscious at the junction of North Shore and Trinity Church Road in Hamilton Parish on May the 14th in 2023. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. So in the courts, Mr. Justice Wolf adjourned the case to December the 27th, when a trial date may be set, and extended Mr. Richardson's bail until that time.
Nothing to say.
Well, in more news, and this one is still something you use. Unfortunately, I don't have anything too bright right now for this Monday morning news, but this one is something that definitely needs to be put some attention on to, the fact that there is a suffering of a lack of oncologists on the island. Now, Minister Kim Wilson had voiced a serious concern about the impact on patient care due to a shortage of oncologists at the Bermuda Hospital Board Oncology Unit, with one oncologist having departed earlier this year and another in September. The ministry recognizes the stress this places on newly diagnosed cancer patients who may need to seek temporary treatment overseas. The BHP is actively recruiting to fill these critical positions and expects 2 new oncologists to arrive soon to restore the essential uninterrupted care. But the minister says that their focus remains on protecting the well-being of every patient, and they're going to try to prioritize with BHP to get collaborating with the Department of Immigration so that this kind of runs very smoothly and they're able to get people to the island on time to help out with this loss.
That's sad. We've got to move, but I just want to say this actually goes back to what Perry was saying earlier. I don't think we understand how much Bermuda isn't as attractive as it once was, not just in IB space, but even in the medical space. Nurses, attracting the best nurses. We've got to honestly come to grips that Bermuda is not in a better space to attract, and this is a space we need because there are so many Bermudians, unfortunately.
Yeah, we have so many great, like, even scholarship lines and everything when it comes to nursing on the island. So definitely look into like oncology and like maybe like, is there not enough people actually filling these roles, and what roles actually do need that actual amount of people like to actually fill? But yeah, that's a serious one there. Just gonna close out with some sports and our weather. But our athletes right now who are in the cycling out there in the Caribbean Road Cycling Championships in Guyana, they got 4 medals already in the very first day. We got some golds coming in, some silvers as well. Definitely one of the main achievements was Connor White, who claimed gold medal with the fastest overall time of 41:32.52. So congrats to him as well. Getting some medals was Caden Hopkins and also Gabriella Arnold and Nick Norway.
Yeah.
That's a positive note.
Do you have anything with Connor Smith and Leilani Nesbitt? Like, I know they both made the playoffs in their teams. Do you have any?
They did, and no, I don't have any news report to you today. I could bring that up for you tomorrow, but I have nothing concrete about it.
I don't know. Like, I should know this because I was like, when you shared that Leilani made it, I was like, okay, I gotta follow. And life happens, man. But I say that because Bermuda, we've got some people doing some amazing things in sports, man. We really do. In everything, but particularly in sports and in spaces where we can support.
Yeah.
So don't be like me. Be like Maya. Follow their channels.
I got to go back and see where they're up to right now. But there is a symposium. Thank you for mentioning that, Leilani, because Women in Sports Symposium is supposed to happen at BRI on November 8th, I believe. I can't remember the exact time, so I have to bring that to you. But heads out for that because there's going to be a lot of Olympians who just finished competing and a lot of just our top national female athletes going to be like talking about the experience and things. And I remember there was a big conversation actually about how women in Bermuda sports have to always constantly lead because we can't continue competing here because there's no one to compete against. But looking at the weather for us today, it's looking like a high of 73. It's a mix of sun and cloud, chance of a light shower towards the evening as well. So just be mindful, always be mindful when you're on those roads. Slow down, take your time, get where you need to get. Nobody cares that you're late. Everyone just cares that you arrive.
Yeah, for sure. Barry, do you have any daily inspiration? Not daily inspiration. Days to remember for us? Sorry.
Yes. So today is actually Use Your Common Sense Day.
Oh.
Every day we see a complete fail of common sense, stupid and fantastic examples of horror that can be seen when someone just refuses to think. Now, the history of this Use Your Common Sense Day was established by Bud Baileynak. I think that's how you say it. Sorry to that man. But a career mentor with a reputation for focusing on being the common sense guy. Now, how can we implement this? We can implement this in the simplest way by using our common sense. Take a little bit more time to stop and consider your options before acting on impulse. Before you decide that something is a good idea, be sure to stop, take a breath, and look it over, and make sure you aren't about to become an object lesson. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind every day.
Yeah, I don't agree with common sense. I don't want to be like the common man. I don't trust the common man. I'm sorry. I'd rather be a critical thinker than to have common sense, because common sense is basically what is considered normal. I don't want to be that. Sorry.
Well, I think the encouragement with the implementation is to stop, think about it, and consider your options before acting impulsively. I think if everyone did that, we would see a little bit more sense. I think that is the encouragement.
That's what I would define as critical thinking, and I would appreciate that.
Well, that's why they have the day for it, because common sense ain't that common.
It's not that common.
Fair enough.
Because people don't stop and think.
No, No, I like that one. I actually like that one. Because you so often hear people saying, "Oh, all these people walking around with degrees and no common sense," and I'm like,
Very true.
well, nobody said formal education made anybody smart.
In certain topics, but not about critical thinking. That's what people need to be taught how to do. Truthfully.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
MP, we'll see you soon. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Enjoy the discussion.
All right. See you soon. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back in about 2 minutes, 34 seconds. We've got Taj Donville-Outerbridge. We're talking about youth civic engagement. In the meantime, if you haven't already, while we're on break, start filling our survey out. Again, we'll share it in the comments again. If you have not done it already, fill out our annual survey. We'll be giving away a lot of prizes this year. So fill it out. If you're eligible for prizes, we'll make sure that we put you in the draw. But 2 minutes, 34 seconds. We'll be back with Taj Donville-Outerbridge.
Let's face it, life can be a little wild, but shopping doesn't have to be. I choose People's, so that whether it's a prescription that needs to be filled, a toy for my little terror, or a gift for a new addition to the family, we'll see about that. Everything's available in one convenient location. Some call it People's. I call it my one-stop shop in the city. People's, we're here for you.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
Unlock your business potential with BDC's General Microloan, offering up to $30,000 for Bermudian small and medium businesses. Whether it's for inventory, working capital, or equipment, we provide 100% guarantee on approved loans. Simple application, low interest rates, and fast processing. Apply today and make your business dream come true.
Looking for the best care for your pets? Nova's Ark Feed and Supply has everything you need, from top quality foods to toys and supplies. We've got it all. Join our frequent buyer program and earn rewards every time you shop. Plus, we've been awarded the Clever Customer Initiative program for helping you save more. And don't forget, we open an hour early on Saturdays so you can get a head start on your pet care. Visit us today or shop online for easy pickup or delivery. Your pets will thank you.
Hey, Daily Hour community, it's that time of year again. The Daily Hour annual survey is live, and we want to hear from you. This is your chance to tell us what you love, what you'd like more of, and how we can make your viewing experience better. It only takes a few minutes, and your feedback helps to shape our show for the year ahead. So don't wait. Click the link, fill out the survey, and help us continue to improve our community one conversation at a time. Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. She's Perry Ferbert. I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. Please do not forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. If you haven't already, make sure you give us a like, a love, a thumbs up. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Make sure the right people have access to what we're discussing this morning. Without further ado, let's bring a guest in today. Let's give a warm TDH welcome to Taj Donville-Outerbridge. Oops, I'm sorry. There we go. My goodness. Taj, I had to let, they were quiet for, they forgot how to clap and cheer. Oh no, how you doing?
Good morning.
I'm good. How are you?
We're good. First of all, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience this morning. Our audience had a lot of opinions on that topic, man. They had some things to say. But actually, before we even get into the conversation with you, you follow, you do know a little politics and situations. What are your thoughts on the whole Hilton Group and rental apartment thing?
I think it's I think many things about it, some things that I'm not going to share today, but I do think in general, the government may be making the right policy decisions. Like this may be a good policy idea, good concept, but one that hasn't been tested, as Perry mentioned, and I think a few people in the comments mentioned, the government is not speaking to the stakeholders that are important to engage in making a decision like this. So it hasn't been tested. And then second, it's not politically savvy. So it's just a bad political decision as well, to kind of to do that right now, especially that an election is bound to happen within the next year or so. So it just seems like they don't care, and they've been empowered not to care by the voter base, as you rightly mentioned, because people can't stop voting just because they made a bad decision, unfortunately.
Indeed, and thank you for that. Thank you for that perspective. I think it's aligned with how many people feel. But Taj, before we get into today's conversation, just give the audience a bit about your background and what it is that you do.
Sure. So I am currently a student at LSE, so the London School of Economics, where I study a Master's of Public Administration. Prior to that, I was at King's College London, where I studied global health and social medicine. So I learned a lot about politics and policy, particularly around health. Prior to that, in Bermuda, I've been an activist, social activist for quite a while. I would say I started my activism in youth parliament, which I was a member of for 8 years or so, or 6 years, I believe, going all the way up through the ranks, from just a junior, from a member to a youth minister, to the Speaker of the House, the head of youth parliament, to then being an advisor as well. So I went through all the ranks of youth parliament, and I think that is a vital experience that young people should have. And then outside of that, I was involved in the PLP. I was the first chair of the new youth wing that they have, which is the Progressive Minds, the newly reconvened youth wing. And I've also worked on the PLP's campaign in 2017 and 2020. And I write opinion pieces, which I'm sure many people have read, controversial opinion pieces, apparently. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome to the Daily Hour. We don't do controversy on this show, because no, this is a family show.
Never, not us.
Not at all. But I'm glad you mentioned your background in terms of the politics and activism. From your perspective, why is it so important for young people in particular to be engaged in the political process?
I think there are many reasons, and I think there are benefits on both ends, and for the whole society. But there are benefits for the young people, and there are benefits for the politicians that engage young people. So the benefits for young people, there are several studies out there about the importance of civic engagement. It improves academic performance, it improves mental health and well-being, it improves your sense of belonging in your society as well, which could be a solution or part of the solution to address gang violence, voter apathy amongst young people, etc. Getting them engaged in the political process could be part of the solution to addressing those problems. And we haven't really seen much discussion about the importance of civic engagement in reducing gang violence, but that is a critical link that I think should be explored. And then on the politician side, young voters, young people have new ideas, fresh perspectives, new ideas, and also they're volatile. And when I say volatile, I don't mean that in a negative or positive way, just that they're more susceptible to change. Young people are growing and developing, and we change more rapidly than older people. So politically, we tend to vote with our values more so than with being attached to a particular political party. There are huge values in engaging young people because we kind of move around the political spectrum. It can be a key voter demographic for parties seeking to, let's say, oust a significant majority government.
I agree with that. I think there are definitely benefits on both sides. When I was politically involved, when I was your age, we had, I wouldn't say different because I don't know what your issues are right now, but our issues back then, I mean, legalizing weed, which still kind of hasn't come to fruition, was a big thing. A lot of things were race-based in Bermuda that we were fighting against. My big issue was conscription in particular. Of course, there's still reparations conversations going on, but I think every generation has its cause, right, or causes. What are some key issues and causes that you're involved in, and people that are politically engaged in your age group? What are some of the causes today that you're fighting for?
I mean, I think the big one that I think is a cause of concern for everyone is the cost of living, particularly for young people returning home from university. As a discussion today, there's a lack of affordable housing, lack of job opportunities outside of international business. So Bermuda's not a very favorable environment, not just for internationals, but for young people who go away to get all this academic expertise to come back and contribute to the society. There's no real incentive to encourage that currently. I think that's a big issue. I think another big issue is climate change for young people. That's very important. That's kind of at the top of the priority list, I would say. And then I think human rights is another one as well, and kind of social justice in terms of both LGBTQ plus rights, socioeconomic status. When you look at the private school divide versus the public school divide and the resources or opportunities that are afforded there, I think those are all conversations that young people are having. Those three, I think, would be the most pertinent, topical concerns of young people in the demographic.
So with those concerns, how do you feel the politicians, or in your experience, how are the politicians receiving these concerns? What's their interaction like with these issues?
Unserious. That's what the interaction is like. I mean, I don't know if either of you saw the panel discussion amongst the candidates for C36, but you saw that there's a lack of knowledge, but also like any kind of political or policy position on those areas. It's just, we have to wait and see, or I have to consult my members, or et cetera, et cetera. There's no real policy positions on those three issues. How can we solve those problems? No one in the government is really saying, or the opposition, or any of the opposition parties is really suggesting how we can address those issues. I think that is a huge problem. And I also think politicians don't tend to take young voices seriously. One, because as I mentioned, we're not a reliable voter base. So we change in the way in which we vote or we don't vote. We're more susceptible to voter apathy. So we're not a reliable voter base. So there's no real incentive for the government to engage young people, if you get what I mean.
I do want to.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't take what we say seriously, and there's a lack of formal kind of institutions to facilitate that engagement around these issues as well. Like I sit on the World Health Organization Youth Council, for example, and I met some young women from Jamaica, and they were telling me about their experiences with the government. They sit on 3 different national advisory boards for climate, for human rights, for digital transformation. Bermuda has no such youth advisory boards for key issues. Yes, we're a small jurisdiction, and so we might not need as many, but I don't see why each ministry couldn't have a youth advisory board, or at least a young person on every statutory government board. That we're not even at a place to have that conversation yet. So you can't talk about meaningfully engaging young people if you haven't made the pathways and given them tools to engage meaningfully.
Wow. I'm kind of digesting as you're speaking, because these are things that the average person is not even considering, right? How valuable the input of youth is for all of the elements that you listed earlier, like well-informed, not necessarily making a decision based off of their own opinions, but off of core values that are either being presented or not. And that's very valuable, to have that ear on the street, so to speak. So that is incredible. So sorry, I'm just digesting. What other challenges, or what challenges I should say, are you facing in getting more young people involved with these initiatives? Do you think they just are tapped out? They don't want to care? Like what challenges are you facing?
Well, voter apathy is common across all age demographics currently. I think people are just kind of politically exhausted. I think that's a big thing, especially in the US and in the West in general. Young people are politically exhausted just because we were flooded with Donald Trump, and in the UK you were flooded with the Tories and kind of the crazy far right things that they were doing. So I think young people are just politically exhausted in terms of seeing those, and then feeling like, one, their voice doesn't matter, and two, not having any meaningful ways to engage, as I mentioned earlier. So I think it's not that young people don't want to vote. I don't think that is that I don't think that would ever be the issue. I think the issue is that, one, we don't know enough about the political parties. Political parties in Bermuda do a very bad job of, one, marketing their manifesto, and two, kind of engaging young voters, whether that be on social media, whether that be through public debates, panel discussions, etc. Bermuda's political system has never done that until recently. And kind of the only dual canvassing, a lot of young people are away at school. So politicians will never encounter a large demographic of young people who are away studying at university. And then when they do show up on the door, I've seen this in my own eyes and heard it from other young people. If I, for example, this is just an example, if I go and open the door to my MP, this is an example, not speaking.
Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically, if I go and answer the door to a politician or to a canvassing, the first thing they ask is, "Oh, where are your parents?" They don't ask me what are my political concerns or if I'm going to vote for the party, because what they're understanding is that, oh, this family is PLP, so everyone in this family is going to vote PLP, or this family is OVA, everyone is going to vote PLP. So they don't even spend the time to engage with young people about what their challenges are, what their experiences are, what their opinions are of how the government is doing and what they could be doing better. So I think, one, on the doorstep, they could do a much better job of engaging, but they could also engage more nationally, like through social media, through a public debate, which I know Bermuda Youth Connect has been calling for the last few elections, and we have not seen that happen yet. So those, I think, I hope that answers the question.
So that was more on the, my apologies, that was a great answer. My apologies for not wording it the way I was thinking, but so that was more for voter apathy. What about advocacy? How do we get more individuals for advocacy? What challenges are you facing in getting more young people to advocate for the issues that they are facing?
I think it's because a lot of young people, especially those who are probably would be engaged, are, like I said, away in university and thus have no way to engage. And a lot of things in Bermuda are in person. Even myself, who's away studying in the UK, and I'm someone who's very politically engaged by comparison to other young people. And I even struggle to find meaningful opportunities just because they're always in person. And only a certain demographic of young people can afford to fly home for particular opportunities. So when you're looking at the types of opportunities that are available, and considering that young people may have to travel to Bermuda, or when the Premier, for example, visits London, always does his events in London, not considering that there are young people based outside of London and the cost of traveling to such a venue. So there's always, so that's a institutional, I guess, challenge. But I think young people are just, we're just not empowered. I think that is the key thing. And it's not that anyone has to empower you, but there has to be an effort on both sides to make you feel like your voice has value. And my whole life, I was told my voice didn't have value. One, because I was young, two, because I was queer. So my entire childhood, I was told that I didn't have a voice. And in youth parliament, that was where I was able to find out that I did have a voice, and other young people have a voice. I don't know what is happening with youth parliament. I don't think it survived COVID in the same way that it did pre-COVID. So that's an area where the government could be throwing investment. But once again, that's not something that sounds politically savvy. It's like, it's not something to get voters out, I suppose. It doesn't, in their opinion anyway, it wouldn't be something that attracts votes. So they wouldn't put any money towards it, even though it's vital to ensuring that young people are engaged.
Okay. Well, so there should just be more pathways to that. So, and you touched on it earlier.
More pathways. Starting in education, starting when you're in secondary school, particularly, not just when you turn 18. The opportunity should start when you're in middle school, when you're in high school. They should start there.
Very, very solid points.
And the education should start there. And that's a critical part that's missing as well. Is the civic education.
They just don't know.
Exactly.
So they can't even, their interest can't even be piqued because they don't even know. But very, very valuable information. The Bermuda Youth Connect actually held political discussions with all candidates except for one. Why was that discussion necessary? Why did we need to have that conversation? Inform the public.
It's vital, it's vital to hear each candidate's and each leader's opinions, views, policy positions in a public forum so that you can compare them directly. Because it's one thing to read paper, and it's one thing to listen to a carefully crafted speech, And it's another thing to listen to how they respond to questions and how they engage with each other across the political spectrum. And that can give you a lot more insight. And in America, and America is a perfect example. Very few people read the manifestos of very few people have read Kamala Harris's manifesto, but they surely listen to the debate that her and Donald Trump had, right? And they surely listen to the town halls, because that is what people want to hear. They want to hear how the politician kind of lays out their platform. So those are important for everyone, not just for young people. But it's also important to hear, I mean, these happen in America, these happen in the UK, but they have demographic-specific town halls, where that demographic gets to ask the politician, hey, what are you doing for us? What are your plans for us? And I think that's an important mechanism that, once again, we don't have in Bermuda as much as we should, but that's an important mechanism to ensure that everyone is engaged in the political conversation, but also so that people can advocate for themselves. It's creating this space in which people can say, hey, I have a concern, but there is in a safe space where they're surrounded by people of shared lived experience. So that's why it's important to have it specifically for young people. That's also why it's important to have it more generally as well.
Yeah,
I like all the points. Sorry, go ahead, Jamal.
No, I like what he just said, because I was called ignorant just last week because I was reading all of the platforms: Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Jill Stein, Cornel West, Chase Oliver. Like, I actually did that because I think in the U.S. case, and it's almost like Bermuda as well, right? Bermuda's become this space, but in the U.S. of 330 million, we've literally been told that we only have two choices, right? Which is crazy in itself. And we don't realize the choices that we're given are the ones backed by the very people we're supposed to be voting against, which is the billionaires, right? The billionaires and the 1% support either of these two parties. But I'm called ignorant because I should just vote against somebody rather than for someone. And I would encourage everyone, while I'm grateful for what Taj just said, he's right. Like, a lot of people are not going to read. So you need to bring them there where they'll actually be able to listen and engage. I think it's our duty. You know, Perry said earlier, like, about voting, and I agree with her, but we've got to read. We've got to understand what we're voting for, right? And even my ignorance last week I don't know if you all know what a U.S. ballot looks like, but there are a lot of people to vote for, a lot of things, key issues. I didn't know about the key issues, right? I didn't know about the housing, yes or no. Like, I did not know. So Bermudians have it easy in that context, in terms of, you know, you're literally just you're not voting on issues. I mean, they had a referendum some years ago. I mean, they've had referendums, let's say, every 10, 15 years, but other than that, for a person. So you need to kind of understand the platforms. You need to be engaged. And because Bermuda Youth Connect might say, you know what, we don't have the time, we don't want to do it. And then what, right? So I appreciate that. But audience, I'm going to come to you because we've got some people in the audience. And if you have any questions, comments, send them through. Mark Arthur T. Phillips says, unfortunately, in some cases, even this present age, some think that young people should be seen and not heard. This is wrong. Charles H. Jeffs II actually has a question. He says, what are Mr. Donville-Outerbridge's thoughts on the growing disdain for party politics in Bermuda? Does he believe independent candidates are a good thing for Bermuda, considering our history?
I think party politics has its challenges. It has its benefits. Don't get me wrong, it definitely has benefits, but it definitely has its challenges. And I think independent candidates are a good alternative, but it's important to hold every individual MP you are electing to account. So when your MP comes to your door, when your candidates come to your door, it's equally important to hold them all accountable. People like to apply additional pressure to independents, but you need to hold all political candidates to the same accord. They all need to have policy positions. They all need to be able to articulate the party or the individual aims, wishes, positions clearly. But I do think independence could be a good alternative. Could be a good addition, not even an alternative. Could be a good addition to our current party system, two-party systems.
Charles H. Second, another question. He says, what are Taj's thoughts on Bermudians living outside of Bermuda being able to vote in Bermuda elections, maybe with House of Assembly rep for all Bermudians living outside of Bermuda? Like myself, they removed me from the registry. But go ahead.
I was actually having this conversation in one of my classes on political science, and we were discussing voter power. And one of the key things, and when I mentioned that in Bermuda we don't have absentee ballots, people looked at me like I was crazy. So just to say, Bermuda lives in 1980 on this issue. Absentee ballots are common in most jurisdictions. It's or people vote at embassies for larger countries. They're able to go and vote at the embassy, at that country's embassy in their respective residence. But in Bermuda, we have no way for young people to engage, young people or anyone who living outside the UK to engage in the political system. And I think that's a huge flaw. And I think it shouldn't be that difficult, particularly in the UK, to set up a voter booth at our consulate office or anywhere, given that we're a territory of the UK. So that shouldn't be a complicated thing to do. And I think that's a good place to start. Obviously, not all Bermudians live in the UK, but that's a good place to start. Start there and see how that works as a test, and then go from there. But there's been no real political movement from either of the main parties. The FDM has mentioned it, but the OBA nor the PLP have made any commitments around absentee ballots. And I think that's a shame, because it's a real important issue that we're overlooking.
The first time I heard it mentioned politically was from the OBA's platform in 2012.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Yeah, but you're right. Like, it's like that was 12 years ago already, right? And I actually echo what you said just now. Like, no party sees that as a major issue. Like, you don't hear them discussing it or talking about it. That is strange.
The parliamentary registry did talk about it. So at that time, 2012, and that's why I was going to mention, I was working there, and I do remember discussion around it. But again, that was 12 years ago, and there has been no implementation around that. But yeah, I hope that this interview falls on the right ears, because you have shared a lot of very valuable information, not just from a youth perspective, but a solid perspective in general on the things that we really need to address around listening to the correct stakeholders and then implementing that information across the board, across age. Because someone has asked what your age, and I think that that's irrelevant, right? It's core and real values that are being brought to light that should just be heard regardless of the age. So
correct. Yeah. And thank you for that. Thank you for that, Perry. Seriously. One last question before you head out, Taj. In your opinion, what is the one thing that has improved in the political space in Bermuda?
That has improved?
Yeah.
I think one thing that has improved is the diversity of candidates. So this election, we have the potential of having 4 candidates in every seat. I think that's a huge leap forward in progress. You have more choice. That's probably the only thing that has improved. Most things have gotten worse in terms of Bermuda's political space.
I think that benefits the PLP. What are your thoughts on a coalition government?
I think that once again has its challenges, and it can be extremely volatile. But ultimately, the opposition, the OBA has already ruled it out. Let's make that clear. The OBA has already said that they're not interested in that. But the only way the PLP is losing, is if the OBA, the FDM, and the independents become more strategic around how they run candidates, where they run candidates, and kind of pool their resources as well. That's the only way in which a supermajority government is going to lose like this to a disorganized opposition. Otherwise, they have the chance.
I mean, you know what Perry just said? She hopes the writers are listening. Honestly, man, I said it after the what's it called? The recent by-election. If folks put ego aside and listen to what you just said, then it's possible. Like, I think
they have a chance.
And if they organize correctly, but it's also listening, because that's our discussion today, right? Like, listening to the right people, and not just listening, because being aware of a burning building doesn't stop the building from being on fire. So listening, but also implementing, I think, go solidly hand in hand, and it can be effective if done correctly. So
but they're not willing. Ultimately, we've seen they're not willing. The leaders are not willing to do it. So
I think the majority, because I do think within each party there are, today is National Use Your Common Sense Day. I do believe that there are a lot of people that are critically thinking, but their voices are overheard. I mean, not heard, I should say, because of majority. So
I think it would be good to get new fresh faces as well. I think that would be a huge help, because currently what we have is all people from the same parties. So you have Mark Bean, who's former PLP, you have John Swan, who's former UBP, you have Renee Webb, who's also helping the independents, who's also former PLP. So you're not really getting anyone new, right? It's just kind of recycling the same.
But we've had those conversations on this show for ages, that attracting like the best in politics just hasn't been the norm over the last 20 years. Like, you know,
who wants to do that?
Right. I was just going to say,
who wants to do that?
You might want an entrepreneur like a Perry, and Perry's like, no.
Listen, let's just retract all of that in Jesus' name. Let's just wipe it off. Okay?
But that's the thing. Like, it's hard to attract the people who will probably be best, and I don't blame them. There was a period when Bermuda probably attracted the best, and so you know, in saying that, I have one last question for you. Trust me, we're going to who you have. But one last question: How do we go about attracting Bermuda's best to the political space?
In politics, I don't know if you'll ultimately not. Let me be careful what I say there. Technocrats, so people who are good at understanding, like, have a very solid knowledge of a particular field. For example, a Curtis Dickerson is an example of someone who would be considered a technocrat. Yes. They don't tend to do well politically. They lack political savvy. So what you often get is people who have political savvy, and unfortunately, political savvy is often combined with self-interest. So people who are the most self-interested often end up being the most politically savvy, and ultimately end up being the most successful politicians. So I guess it's more so about training, and this is a conversation that even I'm having in my degree as well, learning about how, like, people who have particular specialties in fields should understand politics and how politics interacts with that. So politics should be a key part of our education starting from primary school. That, I think, is the key. And shifting our understanding of how politics operates. So that takes a longer period of time. I don't know if you're going to get the best and brightest in politics today, just because the best and brightest would never get elected, because they would never be politically sound, right? Very rarely would they be a politically attractive candidates.
Unless they underwent that training, right?
Exactly.
I mean, the proof in what he just said is in the pudding. I mean, it's been proven 2 years ago with Curtis Dickinson. I mean, he's right. And based on what you just said, the way you said it, it's unfortunate, but
very.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, some of the best people, they're not going to be people. They're not going to kiss babies. They want to just do the work, do what's necessary to help, move things along. And you know what? I don't need nobody kissing me and hugging. I keep saying, I'm that one person. You don't need to tell me what you've done for me. I'll feel it. Touch.
And you're probably rare in that. Most Bermudians,
trust me. I get it. I get it.
Speak to a politician that's going to be nice, be on the doorstep, speak to them when they cross, and then politicians get criticized when they're not friendly. So,
and I get it. Go ahead.
I know we have to wrap, but what I want to say is the value of, and I'm not just saying this from a biased standpoint, but the value of, let's say, a platform like the Daily Hour helps to insert more discussion around things to shape people's opinions, right? So they might then be like, well, I actually don't need this person to shake my hand and kiss my baby. I've heard on the Daily Hour X, Y, and Z. Let me think more a little bit about that. Because if it's not even being presented to you to think about, the average person might not even think about it, because your great-great-grandmother, your grandmother, your mother, your father, everybody's just said, this is how we do it. And because that is where your loyalty lies, is that's how my family does it, so that's how we do it, without actually thinking about the critical matter. So these sorts of spaces are very important. So I think if we had more of this open discussion, not to bash anyone, but just to talk about the facts, more people would open up their minds to consider the actual facts. So then the people who are, let's say, like a Curtis Dickinson, stand a better chance in public space because they're actually speaking facts, right? So there's that too.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Taj, got to run. This has been an awesome conversation. Definitely have you back sometime. There's a lot more we can discuss. So thank you for making time for us. Honestly, really appreciate you. And we'll be in touch.
Yes.
All right. Taj Donville-Outerbridge, folks, if you appreciated that conversation this morning, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Man, we could have went on and on and on, but
I know I wasn't ready for that to end.
Stick with us. We're going to take our last break, 57 seconds. We'll be back with the Daily Play, and Perry will give you some daily inspiration as well.
Hey, Daily Hour community. It's that time of year again. The Daily Hour's annual survey is live, and we want to hear from you. This is your chance to tell us what you love, what you'd like to see more of, and how we can make your viewing experience even better. It only takes a few minutes, and your feedback helps us shape our show for the year ahead. So don't wait, click the link, Fill out the survey and help us continue to improve our community one conversation at a time.
Take a look at our workbook for construction workers and tradesmen. Durable, stretchable in all the right places and plenty of options for tools and accessories. Paired with our wide range of tough and comfortable footwear, you can't go wrong. As you can see, Medical House really is a one-stop shop for everybody. We can't wait to see you.
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Big Show. Thanks again to Taj Donville-Outerbridge for joining us this morning. Bermuda Youth Connect, doing the work, keeping people engaged, especially young people, in the process, activism through politics. We appreciate you, folks. If you appreciated it, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share it with your family, your friends, your colleagues. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medical House Windows, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we would have these conversations with you on a regular basis. Also, you just saw Maya. If you haven't already, just click that link. It says forum.jotforum.com. Just click that link. Make sure you fill out our survey, our annual survey. If you have not done it already, we'll leave it up for about another few days, probably to next week. So fill it out for us. Your feedback is crucial to ensure that we continue to have guests and conversations with people like Taj. All right, it's time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. Harry, are you ready? It's a Who Said It?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if she guesses the author of this famous quote. Audience, let's see if you get it. Perry, who is the author of this famous quote? Quote, when they go low, we go high. End quote.
Michelle Obama.
The arrogance. Don't hear my music or nothing, you know? I mean, gee.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But you know what? I heard in church yesterday, when
What?
you go low, God takes you higher.
Oh, I like that one too. Okay.
First Peter 5, I think. Humble yourself, and He will exalt you. That's a stat. That's a stat for the next group of people.
I might use that one next week. You ain't doing the show that money. No, thank you for that. Final thoughts on this morning's discussion period about the Bermudiana Beach Resort, and then the conversation with Taj.
Well, both conversations are never ending, truthfully. I think there's a lot to unpack in both of them, but I think the name of the game for me is making sure Bermudians are provided for, especially the Bermudians who are underserved. There we go. Thank you. We need to look out for them as well, because I think the Daily Hour does a good job of promoting our culture. But if there are no people here to house the culture, what are we really promoting? Pink sand? Well, then what? That doesn't keep people for too long, especially because they can't swim all year. So there's lots of gaps in that. So that's my thoughts. We need to kind of consider Bermudians first. And if we consider Bermudians first, we might see a little bit more circulation in our dollars, because that's what we used to see. Because hospitality used to get the people here, and that actually used to do a lot. So if we can get back to putting Bermudians first, we might actually see more progress. With that, and then with Taj, goodness, I'm still digesting. I think he gave us a lot to consider, not just for young people. I definitely want to stress that, because being seen and not heard is very dangerous, because you can learn from anyone if you have ears to hear and eyes to see. So I think that's where I stand on that. Lots of solid information from Taj.
Yeah, as far as the conversation regarding Bermudiana Beach Resort, I think there's so many different concerns. One, what does this mean for the relationship with a company like Hilton going forward? Another concern is this doesn't seem like it's a Bermuda first or Bermudians first decision, which, in my opinion, is detrimental. It's detrimental for us as a community and a society. And number three, how much longer are we going to watch the government literally throw money at things while Bermudians continue to struggle? I think those are my takeaways from that. And I will say this, that it's up to us to hold government accountable beyond our vote. They're not going to do what we don't allow them to do. As far as the conversation with Taj, I'm always encouraged when people are politically engaged. Politics is draining. It's draining. I honestly don't watch the news as much as I used to because of politics. I just cannot take it. Because of this show, I have to stay up to date with certain things, so I have to read certain stories. But it's draining. Being an activist is one of the hardest and toughest jobs you'll have. Like it's stressful. So I'm encouraged by the work that he and other young people like himself are doing, and I hope that they are able to accomplish things. One thing I'll always be proud of is it didn't happen overnight, and it cost a pretty penny that's still being paid today. But when we fought to end conscription, we did not stop fighting. We kept going and going and going. And I hope that anyone out there who has a cause, keep going, keep pushing. If you believe in it, keep pushing. Parrot, do you have any? Before we do daily inspiration, I just want to say, woke up this morning, saw that the world lost Quincy Jones, who, if you follow any type of music, if you know anything about art, entertainment, Quincy Jones had his fingers and hands on a lot of stuff, from Fresh Prince to Thriller. He was Color Purple. He was the producer of all producers. So, man, we lost a giant in an industry that so many of us grew up to love and used that as inspiration. Some of the music he produced. So, to his, we thank you for his wisdom and what he offered.
Yeah, for sure. Daily inspiration. Before I do that, I just want to share these for Taj. Well done, Taj. Someone else said, when is the podcast coming? Which I think is funny. Great conversation for Taj. And then I think there was another one. Thank you. Here we go. I'm Suzanne Ingham. So I think that's always great for people to see that encouragement. So inspiration today is actually from our National Day. And I just want to reiterate that you should, before you decide that anything is a good idea, be sure to stop, take a breath, look it over, and make sure you aren't about to be an object lesson. Use your common sense today. That's my inspiration for today.
Love it. Thank you so much for that, Perry. Folks, again, if you haven't already, please fill out our survey. Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lenders, and People's Pharmacy, for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. She's Perry Ferbert. I'm Jamel Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. We are out. Peace.
Bye.